Folks, just stand to the flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Redmond.
Here.
Councilmember Stackla.
Here.
Councilmember Stearns.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kleur.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. City Manager, Josh is during the agenda item, not special presentation, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Well, let's open up for public comment. Is there anybody who is on the list or online that would like to speak today?
There's nobody signed up and there's nobody online.
Okay. We'll move on to the next agenda item. City Manager, would you start us off with staff comments, please?
One thing we've got on the agenda tonight is the annexation issue, and we're going to have to pull that off. A couple things have happened in discussions with the Chief Administrative Officer. We want to expand the annexation not only to the 14 Crystal Geyser parcels, but to the orchard, and now it's arisen that they want to include one of the Sousa Ready Mix sites in this, and John needs more time to put together a resolution to get us into the LAFCO process, because it's pretty involved. And part of this too is I got all the LAFCO paperwork, and it's basically 100 pages for each parcel. And so with, let's see, 19 parcels, it's gonna be a lot more involved than we thought. Plus we gotta track down the property owners other than the orchard, because we own it, and get their signature on this stuff. So it's gonna be a bit of work, but we'll be bringing the resolution for the 3 annexations back at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Question on that. And Sousa Ready Mix, are they interested in being annexed?
That's to be determined. That came up through Ed Valenzuela and Angela Davis, that if we're going to do this, let's do that parcel, because they've got 2 parcels in the city and 1 that's in the county. And I would assume they would like to be in. I've got contact information, I just haven't reached out yet.
Would you mind, I know it was in the report that you sent out earlier today, but would you mind just giving a brief rundown of what happened with the lake fiasco so that we have it documented?
Okay, let's start from the beginning. So one of our public works folks, normally to test what you think is an abandoned storm drain, you dump green food coloring down and you see where it goes. Because of low water flows, and we probably used a little bit more, from my understanding, slightly more than what we normally use, what happens is that food grade coloring mixes, and when if it hits the lake, it disperses really quickly. In this case, it came down as one large bolus because there was no water to mix with. And so it appeared that we had an algae bloom and a real issue. And then somebody from County OES, communication error, was down there and they saw it, and they put out something on Facebook saying Lake Siskiyou has an algae bloom problem and you should refrain from swimming. Now, I reached out to him and said, do not ever put anything out this without communicating with staff. And he issued a sort of tepid retraction, but I ended up putting out a statement that went out on our police Facebook page, and made a lot of phone calls to make sure that we're covered. And so it was a big to do about nothing, and yeah, and so if you swam, OES apparently were getting calls from at least 10 people that said they were getting sores from swimming in the lake. And if, if green food coloring does that to you, you've got bigger issues. So, yeah, that's the story.
And there was, just to do the due diligence, there were a couple samples that were taken, right?
Yes.
And those came back and everything's
Everything's copacetic.
perfect, thank you.
And, if you get the bad spot that day within an hour period of time, you might come out slightly green, but a shower would help you with that.
Yeah.
Chief, anything from you? Chief, any comments? Muriel?
I do have a comment and update regarding recycling. Our franchisee has been working with Siskiyou Opportunity Center to handle the excess recycling that has been going to the Opportunity Center. So they've been handling that as a temporary solution for the Blue Bag program as we move forward. The bigger issue is in dealing with the transfer station and frankly the unwillingness of the Pelletier family to work with the city and work with anybody in regards to recycling and/or green waste. Now, their RFP for that transfer station is coming due in the next year or so. I'm not sure exactly when. But in order for us to move toward having curbside containers for both recycling and green waste, we are going to need the use of the transfer station to develop those programs. And I have reached out to our supervisors as well as the person that is the lead for that department in the county to ask them to, in their development of the RFP for the transfer station, to somehow take recycling and green waste into consideration, not only for the city of Mount Shasta, but the surrounding areas, which would include Dunsmuir, McLeod, Weed, any of those other places that have to handle state mandates that are coming down the pipe eventually. I think for us it's 2025, which is just around the corner, and in order to make that development happen, we're going to have to be working with the transfer station and coming up with solutions so we can handle recycling as well as green waste in an appropriate manner. I just wanted to fill you in that we are working on it. Waste Management has gone out of their way to make sure that we're still doing the recycling and handling it in some of their other, actually trucking it to some of their other facilities. So our recycling is being taken care of, but it's, as I said, a temporary solution, and we need some additional things to happen over the short term to develop these programs in the long term.
Through the chair. Muriel, can City Mount Shasta staff work with surrounding areas, McLeod, Weed, and Dunsmuir, to have a coordinated front, so to speak, effort?
Absolutely.
Great.
Councilors, any other comments?
To the chair. This past Saturday was the very first annual Watson's Vets Club Handsome John's Golf Tournament for the athletic boosters. We raised $6,000 for them. We had 25 teams sign up on our very first time, 100 people. It was herding cats, but we got through it. And we look forward to next year, and we're going to shoot for double that money.
Wow.
And maybe even do a two-day tournament if we get more signees. Wow. There was a lot of people that had to work and couldn't sign up.
Right.
So we might be able to turn this into a two-day event.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. Dusty, okay? We'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to consider elements on the consent agenda separately? I'll take that as a no. City manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, the approval of the minutes on July 11th, 2022 for the regular city council meeting. B, approval of disbursements, accounts payable for June 28th, 29th, as well as July 5th, 12th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, 2022. Total gross payroll and taxes for the period ending June 26th and July 10th, 2022. C is the monthly investment report, and D is the declaration of surplus equipment for resolution CCR, well, I guess, dash 22. And approval of agreement between the City of Mount Shasta and the Siskiyou Humane Society. Any questions? Any public comment? I guess we've already handled that because that's handled on the first part. Do we hear a motion?
Move to approve consent agenda items A through E, including declaration of surplus equipment resolution CCR 2222 by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda item number 8, Chamber of Commerce, budget request. City manager, you want to kind of reintroduce and tee this up for us before we get the presentation?
Sure. We had a presentation from, I guess, chamber adjacent, looking at 3 tiers of digital marketing strategy to drive tourism and lodging and potentially residents to the area, and each level of cost at each tiered level. There's a different amount of effort put in, obviously, for each one of these, and the presentation last time we didn't quite have enough information to make a decision on whether this was a good investment for, say, a trial for a year. And so we have the same folks back to present with us, and it looks like they've got more information, and I'm looking forward to listening to the presentation and seeing what we've got.
Good evening, guys. So I'm going to give you to answer some of the questions that weren't clarified last week, give you kind of an overview and objective of Visit Mount Shasta. Visit Mount Shasta was created by a subcommittee of the Chamber of Commerce in an effort to benefit the businesses, the city, and the community. The idea was to create a website and social media pages that would digitally attract potential visitors. Visit Mount Shasta operates under an umbrella of the Chamber consisting of the executive director and board members, and while still being in its infant stage, the committee has room for a council member, community members, or say someone from city administration. We view it as having a tremendous amount of promise while adding value not only to Chamber members but also the entire business community. The committee is here to collect information and advise and inform Josh of content that we feel needs to be delivered through the sites. Just a few years ago, we were a town with very little business diversity and lots of empty storefronts. Today, we offer more services to our visitors and community members than ever. More restaurants, more retail, additional downtown lodging, year-round outdoor recreation, and an expanding ski park. It's an opportune time to promote our town not only to tourists, but also other businesses, developers, and potential future residents.
Hi, so you guys got to look over this. The revised V2 of this is pretty similar, except with some changes. So if you'd like further clarification on anything that maybe I gloss over due to us seeing this last time, just let me know. So the goals were for more tourism, more dollars being brought into our local economy, more accessible information, and some potential income generation. We really want to make sure that we're targeting people, in that digital age. A lot of 25 to 45-year-olds seem to be our biggest demographic and what we're going after from the southern and central Oregon, as well as large cities from California, and including Redding, Chico, and that. Also, we want to get people following our social media pages, being aware of our website so that they're coming back and they're satisfied visitors once they come to Mount Shasta. Usually somebody that comes here is likely to come again and also tell friends and family about a positive experience that they had. And so that brings us back to the 3 tiers that the city manager was speaking about. And I just want to go over a couple things were amended because I wanted to add ad spend to the 2nd and 3rd tier. So if you notice on the 3rd tier, it says a larger budget for ad spend. So that's money not going into the company's pocket, but it's going directly to more promotion of the Visit Mount Shasta website as well as social media pages, because the digital ad spend has been the greatest growth of both the website and social media platforms. And I have analytics to show. And to break down the things that we're doing, because some of it's a little techie, and I can, again, further break down these things if you want, because it is, like, for example, Facebook pixel creation is a piece of code embedded into the website so that your ads can be tailored and more accurate in the future. So again, to note that your analytics and the metrics you're seeing are going to be the worst the first month, and everything grows afterwards, because everything's always constantly refined, and as we get more information, we learn and we grow. So something that I think was on the agenda that you guys wanted to know more about was the customer relationship management, and that's basically interaction with followers, especially social media. We have people asking, where's this waterfall? How can I find this? What do you recommend a good place to eat? All these types of things. And for now, we haven't really engaged because it's a lot of work. It's we have 45,000 visitors to combine between the social media pages and the website. So to interact with the people that are commenting, asking questions is quite a lot. And as well as we get the data from all these people coming in, we can tailor that data in future campaigns or however you guys see fit, or sorry, the subcommittee sees fit. This was a future projection, which is one of the main things that the council wanted to see. And so the Tessa Kluwer, councilwoman, looked over this and gave her a thorough thumbs up. And we just wanted to show growth projection. So again, we have the 3 tiers. We have the average reach, which is unique visitors. Sometimes people always use the term impressions, but we want to make sure that we're distinguishing between impressions, which is, say, maybe the same visitor returning to the website, and that would be 2 times in impressions, but that's really 1 visitor that you're reaching, which is what matters in this case. So with the digital ad spend, which was not a lot, I think it was about $100 a month or less actually, which is included in tier 2. We're reaching 45,000 unique people. And so we're trying to be conservative with our estimates, and we're thinking, well, if 1% of those people decide to visit Mount Shasta and have a 3-day weekend, spend some on lodging, hotel, I think it was $500 discretionary spending, and if we're only getting 1% of that extrapolated over a month, we're seeing quite a good ROI. Even if we're off by 10 and it's 0.1%, the ROI is still quite good. So we wanted to show the future projections and what we can hope to anticipate. And these are some of the analytics. Since we took over, we've seen a 1,200% growth in Facebook, and that's mainly due to the digital ad spend. We did not do the digital ad spend on Instagram, only on Facebook. Instagram still organically grew 26.8% since April 8th is when this started, till a few days ago. And we can see this is a snapshot of 30 days. I think it was June 20th to July 20th. And you can see our Facebook page reached 39,800 unique visitors. And in the graph, you can see when we started the ad campaign. So normally you might be around that 800 to 1,000 range. And we reached almost 8,000 people, 8.9 thousand people per day with the ad spend. So the return on the ad spend is quite significant. And some more analytics. This is the demographics we're reaching. 35 to 44 is our largest group, mainly women on the social media pages. And the area that we're getting is, we're seeing from social media, because again, most people are using mobile to view this. They're going to be in Mount Shasta. So they're here, they're looking at what there is to do once they're in the city, and they can say, oh, look, there's a concert going on, or oh, look, there's a good place to eat. And so they're using it to navigate. And as far as the website goes, this is another month snapshot. We have 4,000 unique visitors, and you can see basically it's pretty consistent over time. And it's about 50-50 between mobile and desktop on the devices used for website. And then you can also see where the locations are. So it's kind of hard to tell on the projection there, but this is for California, and you can see a lot of it is from San Jose, San Francisco, Los Angeles, a lot of these places that we've been targeting with the digital ad spend. And if you want to zoom out and see from a world perspective, it's United States first, Japan, Canada, and things like that. Yep, and that is basically it. So I know that was kind of a gloss over, but I can back it up to anything you guys have further questions on.
One clarification is for the committee that you guys are wanting to have to kind of oversee the Visit Mount Shasta site, just to make sure we're all understanding, it's made up of potentially a council member, city staff, different members of the public perhaps, and chambers, so it's kind of an all-encompassing view.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing, Josh, on the largest benefit is the ad, is it, how do you say ad?
Ad spend.
Ad spend is where we're seeing the biggest impression or visits. Is that how you would?
Yeah, the most reach.
Okay, the most reach. And then that's on tiers 2 and 3?
Correct. So tier 1 would be a $100 a month budget. Tier 2 would be a $200 a month budget.
Okay, and the ads are on
Sorry, tier 2 and tier 3.
Tier 2, tier 3. And then the customer interaction, which we haven't done yet, which would be feeding all the questions and helping people where to eat, where to stay, where to spend. What tier is that in? Just to make
2 and 3 as well.
2 and 3 as well.
And also, it's not only helping the public navigate, but also we would be interacting with other places such as Visit California. And if Visit Mount Shasta pops up, people will go, oh, what's that? I wonder what they're up to. And then it can also increase the reach.
Right. And then lastly, just wanting to make sure everyone saw that. So even if there was a 0.1% return, we're still netting to the good for the city's purpose.
Correct. If it was 0.1%, I think we're still 10 times the
cost.
ROI.
And what tier are you representing on that spreadsheet?
So with the discount, it's $2,900 at the tier 2.
Tier 2.
But I put all 3 just for reference.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
John, okay. Tim, where are you on this?
So on the difference between Tier 2 and 3 and Tier 1 is Tier 2 and 3 have a $200 per month ad buy. Tier 1 has a $100 per month ad buy.
Sorry, Tier 2 has 100, Tier 3 has 200 ad buy.
And Tier 1 has no.
Tier 1 has no ad buy.
So what's the cost of, if it's a $100 per month ad buy, why not include that in Tier 1?
It's just trying to give you options. So, I mean, we wanted to have a variety of choices.
Oh, I hear you indicating that ad buy is perhaps the most valuable thing.
Yes. I mean, management arguably is the most valuable thing because it has to start there. And then ad buy is essentially marketing on top of that.
Would you be willing to consider including a ad buy, $100 a month ad buy into Tier 1, kicking that up $100 a month?
That is potential. It's not only going to increase $100 a month because that's simply the ad spend. Then there's the work to be done, creating the campaigns, the audience creation, the retargeting strategies, the conversion tracking, and all that stuff.
And have you and Kevin talked about how this plan would be financed after year 1? In other words, one of the questions we asked at the last meeting is this a one-time request to the city council, or are you asking us to basically be a sponsor on an ongoing basis without a time limit?
If you're asking what I think, I don't think it's a one-time. I think it, you know, if you guys pick your tier or your plan and everybody's happy and it works for both sides and we see it coming in back through the city, it continues. I think also being in its infant stage, there's a lot of room for potential as a revenue stream in the future, but I think you have to really build up your followers, and then its potential for selling advertising.
Well, there was talk at the last meeting of being able to generate income, the chamber being able to generate income over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I heard that income would be expected to increase over time. So all we have here is a one-year projection, which I think is, I mean, I would hope that it's correct, but I think it's pretty rosy,
Mm-hmm.
very rosy actually, in my opinion. But if this site helps generate income for the chamber, why would the chamber be asking the city to basically fund the program ad infinitum?
Well, I want to be cautious and kind of keep the chamber separate from Visit Mount Shasta or Visitor Center money. So I see it as there's a potential, the chamber operating it to me adds value to chamber membership, okay? So as we're recruiting new members for the business members, you know, this is another kind of package that we offer to our membership. So I'm not looking at direct advertising for the chamber. I'm not excluding that idea either, but really it's just adding value to the membership.
How would you feel if the city were to simply commit to 1 year?
I think 1 year is the start. Absolutely, yeah.
And then you'd expect to come back the next year and the next year?
Yeah. Simply, I mean, if it's working for both sides. Yeah, please.
No other questions?
So I just wanted to reiterate the main function of these plans is to bring people in and hopefully see an increase in TOT dollars. And so the main function of it is not to necessarily sell advertising and have an online e-commerce store. That's definitely a possibility and it's something we can do, but the main function is to get people to visit Mount Shasta. So the whole city sees the benefit in that.
There seems to be a relationship between ad buy and overall cost to the city. So apparently, if there's ad buy, there's more work to be done, and therefore the monthly fee is higher. Is that the implication?
Correct.
Okay. So for the council and for the general public, just this, I'm still involved with the ice rink, but I was actually managing the ice rink for many years, and we budgeted anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 for a 3-month season, which is for a 3-month season.
For marketing?
For marketing, yeah. So marketing a city for $2,000 to $3,500 a month it doesn't really faze me. And that's a much smaller operation than the city of Mount Shasta. The goals are much bigger too. So I'm not at all afraid of these numbers or intimidated with the possibility of being shortchanged in some way. Sometimes it is hard to determine if the marketing is working well. I guess we'll just have to see if we try this experiment and see what sort of a difference it makes. And it looks like these gentlemen, especially Josh, will have the numbers or analytics to show us some correlation. I do suggest you get in touch with, stay in touch with if we do this, stay in touch with our finance department to keep an eye on how TOT and sales taxes are being affected. There is a lag time on those numbers, but it would be good to see if there's a correlation between more marketing and, more tax revenues. So, anyhow, those are my comments.
Absolutely, and I can provide quarterly updates on everything.
John, where are you leaning?
Towards the middle one. Towards the middle.
Public comment here?
Yep. We should go to public comment. Where, Kathy? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this agenda item? No. Todd, can you see if there's anybody online that wants to speak about this?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Looks like Johanna.
There is one. Do you know how to let Johanna speak? Johanna, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, there I am. I'm unmuted.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, it took me a second. Sometimes it's a dialog box, and this time it was just a little icon at the bottom. So I think this is a really cool thing for the city of Mount Shasta to have marketing. I tried to do some marketing myself years ago with some of the local Bay Area TV stations with some pictures of the ski park and whatnot. And it's a very difficult thing to do. So I really appreciate what they're trying to do. But one of the questions that I would have is, how can the city differentiate the increase in the TOT that's generated from the influx of Starbucks customers versus this marketing program? Because interestingly enough, Starbucks, just started this year, and so that's going to be a big draw into the city. And so how, is there a way for them to track this? Is there like a qualifier or a track, a pixel or whatever he was calling it, that can be tracked so that we know perhaps the source? Or anyway, so that would just be interesting to know, because it might be hard to tell if it's the marketing or whether it's like Starbucks, which is kind of a big marketing thing in and of itself, right? So anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter where it comes from at the end of the day, but if we're going to be doing this year over year and approving this, it would be an important metric to try to track. So if they have any comments on if there's a way for them to do that, it would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. Any other hands raised? No? Thanks, guys. Let's bring it back to City Council and councilors. So, John, you're kind of leaning towards number 2 so far?
To get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
To get the ball rolling for this first year and with the extended options with the add-on.
Before we take a vote here, let me kind of throw my 6.5 cents into this
Inflation.
agenda. It used to be a dime, but inflation, right? For me, this is hard. This is a hard decision for a number of reasons. One is, what I'm really grateful for is I'm not standing on your side of this discussion, which I did for 10 years last century. We didn't do mobile. That wasn't a thing back then. But I understand the dynamics, and one of the presentations that you've got is the 1% take rate. And there's a way we used to do it was as a break even. How many incremental families would have to show up? And I kind of figured it's 13 or 14 a month, roughly, would have to show up to pay off this investment. And that's one of the nice ways to look at it, and kind of encouraging ways to look at it. One of the inescapable ways to look at it is when we start committing to $25,000 to $37,000 as a chunk of money, with the potential of looking at it annually, that's a significant sum for us, and it's just not a quick, light decision, especially when to really do a good analysis of how many people actually incrementally would have come relative to this advertising and all the impressions you're going to be putting out there on our behalf. The only really good way to go do that, you don't have enough money to go do that. To actually do focus groups and surveys where you have to set people down, track them, pay them $25 a person or a family to actually figure out what percentage, and you got to do hundreds of those, and that's $50,000, $75,000 just to do that, and that's not going to happen. So to some degree, it's I made the argument for doing this hundreds of times, and yet it's a big decision for us, and that's enough. I thank you for the updates and little bits and pieces of numbers that can help me put a frame of reference on this. And any other questions, councilors?
Through the chair. Do you foresee this proposed program as eventually replacing one or more of the staff that are working at the visitor center?
Unforeseen timeline on that, right? I mean, at what point does digital and phones and everything take over completely for everyone?
Looking into the future, what you talked about, this is the way of the future. I'm just trying to get some sense of
my
that.
opinion, yes, someday. I don't know when that day is.
Well,
Yeah.
any thoughts on when that might be? Basically closing down the visitor center?
I don't
The
think
physical
that's
visitor
I
center?
don't think that's a goal at all. It's just we're targeting different demographics by reaching out to them through social media. There's no question. I mean, we still get foot traffic through the doors of the visitor center.
And if I may follow up, Josh, in regards to Councilmember Stackfluff's question or comment about how do we determine whether this is from, or maybe it was, how do we determine whether it's from Starbucks or
That
some
was
other place?
Johanna.
Yeah, maybe it was Joanne.
So there's no direct one-to-one tracking. That'd be a little too invasive. We get metadata, and essentially we can take all these pieces of information in aggregate, try to best guess what's happening. I mean, you could see if the Starbucks was opened early and it's already packed all the time, that would have a different timeline than when we start this, as well as we can see where people are coming from, how many people looked at one of our ads and then immediately checked out our website. If we decided to do the e-commerce store, if somebody bought a piece of merchandise directly tracked to one of our ads, we can track that funnel like that, but there is no direct one-to-one. And even as Mayor was saying, if we did focus groups, if we did all of that stuff, it's still a guess. It's a much better guess, but it's still always going to be a guess. There's never direct.
I would like to make a motion to approve the Chamber of Commerce budget request and request that we choose the middle tier, Tier 2 at $2,900 a month for a 1-year contract.
Second.
Is there any discussion or amending that folks feel like, or do you want to just take that straight to a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Well, we're off to the races, and we'll just, in a year, we'll hopefully have wonderful news from you all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Council.
Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
City Manager, you want to introduce the next agenda item?
Sure. So up next is the Mount Shasta Trails Association, and just a little bit of a word on this. I walked the proposed trail site with Paul Schwartz and John Harsh, and you guys know about this proposal. It's been around for a while. The location is an area that has, significant grades. It's off to one edge of the landing parcel. It would connect, I believe it's known as the Everett Vista. It is a way to further our network of trails and, for multi-users, hikers, mountain bikers, equestrians. And one of the things that I've seen in Portland is putting hard numbers to, say, bike trips into a community and what that relates to in terms of the amount of money spent for repairs, the amount of money for meals after a ride and beer and lodging and all the other things that come with it. And we're seeing, I don't know whether it's because of Grinduro or just because the word's getting out that we have significant amount of mountain biking. We're seeing more hikers. These are folks that are spending hard money in our community. And, from my perspective, finishing this leg of the trail is just going to add, more of a draw, to this community.
Thank you, Todd. Good evening. I'm Paul Schwartz with the Mount Shasta Trail Association, and I have with me fellow board members John Harch, who's our board president, and John Thompson. And gentlemen, please feel free to interject at any time. So, and likewise with the council, if you have any questions during my presentation, please feel free to just raise your hand. I do much better in a dialogue situation than sitting up here doing a monologue presentation. We're here tonight with really a simple request, a request for a trail, a short trail, a trailhead, a simple trailhead, and some signs and a map kiosk on a city property to really help complete a larger project that's going on. I looked at the agenda packet tonight, and it didn't include the larger Gateway 2 project map. And so I would like to pass this around so you guys can kind of follow along and see where this trail proposal fits into the overall system. So as Todd indicated, this trail proposal has been in front of the City Council a couple times early on, I think back in 2019, in a conceptual fashion, because the city trailhead was an important part of this trail system. And then again, an update of the trail system was presented by John Hart earlier this year. The trail is no longer conceptual, it's fully funded, and it's under construction. So the map that I just handed out, you can see this extensive Gateway 2 trail system that surrounds the city of Mount Shasta. And what it's going to create are 5 new trailheads, 3 of them along the Everett Memorial Highway, at McBride Springs, a place called 10 Gallon, and then also up on Vista Point. You guys all see that? And then there's going to be a 4th trailhead that will connect this trail network with the Nordic Center, and ultimately a trail without a trailhead that will extend all the way up to the ski park. And then the last trailhead in the system is the one that is on city property as the trail on the south end of this project approaches the east side of what was the Roguesburg property, because it's now called the Landing. And we have a map of that. It's up on the screen. We've been out on that property a couple times with the city planner on one occasion, and then just a couple weeks ago with the city manager, Todd. And we have a really simple solution for installing a trail. And the solution is we use an existing road. And so it was probably part of the Roseburg complex, but there's a road that is suitably graded for use as a trail. It extends to the east side of the Roseburg property, and just happens to be within 50 or 60 feet of where the approved Forest Service trail would come up on that boundary. And then as the road approaches South Mount Shasta Boulevard, the grade drops a little bit, and it would require that we put in no more than about 500 feet of single-track trail leading to a trailhead parking lot. And the trailhead parking lot on that property, as it exists, is pretty much ready to go. There's a wide open gravel area. There's a small strip of pavement that could be used for parking. And there wouldn't need to be a whole lot of improvements to be done on that to make it a functional trailhead. We'd put in some rocks to identify the borders of that trailhead, do a little grading. There's the idea that maybe some chipped asphalt, recycled asphalt could be put in there and packed down to keep a nice dust-free surface. So we're really excited about the Gateway 2 project in its entirety. We know that this is going to really benefit our community, in terms of recreational opportunities for local citizens, those folks who live here in Siskiyou County. It will also benefit local business and ultimately benefit our city. And we believe that this particular trailhead in the scope of the Gateway 2 system is going to be one of the most popular trailheads. I get out there, I like to bike around. We're constantly exploring the new trails that are out there. And the way that this trail is set up, this is likely to be a very, very popular trailhead. Anything you guys want to say?
The key point is that we're not doing anything out there the developer couldn't move with it, 1/10 of his We're not doing anything out there that a developer coming in and developing the site couldn't move with, a couple of days worth of work. So should be totally compatible with any kind of future development out there. And then on the north side of that creek, there's a area that looks like it could be a nice park and stuff. It's, a real development in the future, but, we don't need to do that now. We just get this trail in operation, get it started, and get some people, get some activity down there at that end of town.
And two more things that I wanted to mention. John was talking about how easily modifiable this trail facility could be for future development. The cost of any maintenance, and I think that the improvements to the current property could be defined as a maintenance and improvement project, and those costs will be provided or covered by Mount Shasta Trail Association, and we'll make sure that all the work is also done.
I just have one additional comment. If you look at your map, and
this map of the trail system.
And we already have a significant portion of these trails built as of right now. And for instance, if you look where it says 10-gallon trailhead, the Forest Service has improved that, and we're going to develop that trailhead very soon. But traveling down BMZ 7 to BMZ 11 and 12, all of that is cut in along with BMZ 10, and it drops people at the railroad tracks there on Old McLeod. As soon as we finish BMZ 13 and 14, it'll drop everybody right at the top of this map where we're proposing. So people will have a run from the Vista Trailhead at the very top up there, from BMZ 4, BMZ 5, down to the 10-gallon, and all the way down to the bottom of the city, probably an hour-plus run to the bottom of the city, and that is what's going to get ridden. And there's going to be a lot of action down there at the south end of town. So this, in our view, is critical to this whole project, which is about a $2 million project. And as Paul mentioned when he started, probably we're very close to having every penny we need to finish all these trails. This is the last piece of the puzzle.
So Gateway 2 is going to add an additional 45 miles of trail to the existing 11 miles of trails that are already out there. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Gateway trails that are already out there. They're super popular, well used, and if you look on the map, tucked down here in one corner is the existing gateway system, and it's dwarfed by the enormous size of this Gateway 2 trail expansion. So that is about it. Our proposal is before you. We would like to extend your approval rate tonight on agenda items. Hopefully this is one of the more fun agenda items that you have in front of you tonight. Any questions?
Yeah. Councilors, questions?
So where exactly is this location? I know where Church Street is. I know where the building with the...
So you know where Church Street is?
Yeah.
That's where the health club is,
right.
Or Mountain Fitness is.
Yeah.
It is about 100 yards to the south along Mount Shasta Boulevard.
Okay.
It's a little low spot. There's not even a seasonal drainage. When it rains, water runs down it. It's not a creek. And it's just on the south side of that. So everything stays on the south side of that drainage.
Okay, I know where it is.
It's right, directly across from the big gates are in the center of the development.
And if any of the city council members would like to get out on the trails and explore, see what we've got, we'd be happy to take anybody out there at any time. Or to go out here to the south end of town and take a look at this project.
So, Paul, if I understand correctly, the Trail Association, I mean, I like the idea. The Trail Association, I think, is asking for an easement, but it would be an easement that would be subject to being moved upon city or developer demands. Is that the idea?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's a movable easement.
Correct, and it's really just using current infrastructure plus a few modifications and improvements.
Right. Okay.
Let me shift over to public comment and see if there's anybody who would like to speak on this. John, if you put on a mask and you can speak in two different places.
The only other addition, the other fact is, if we don't do something, the mountain bike riders will make a trail down there.
Right.
I hate to throw that at you, but it's just the truth, because when they get to the bottom of the Forest Service land, they'll find a way down. So this way we can direct them, we can control erosion, we can control the path, and it's just a much better way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Is anybody online who has a hand raised? No? Well, let's bring it back to council for a comment. And actually, I'm going to jump in on this one, Ed, because this is a fun thing to make a decision on. It's a great effort and value for our town that was exemplified by all of a sudden we have Grinduro coming to this town, which is mind-boggling to me. The fact that we at least are considering some development, residential development down at that southeast side where the trail will come down through, what a draw. Would you like to live near where there's the entrance to 45 plus 11, 56 miles of trails right at your home? That's a good thing as far as I can see. And I just wanted to start off by going, thank you guys. This is a, and the fact that it can be moved, because Lord knows if or when we get to development down there, who knows what that would bring, but if the fact that it can be moved, that's a really, for me anyway, eliminates any potential problem. Anybody else have any comments or?
With the amount of mountain bikers that come into my place, I'd be stupid to vote no.
Well, right. Do I?
I'd like to move that we approve this in concept, the movable easement, and let staff and Trail Association move forward. Bring it back for, I guess, a final approval of the final paperwork.
Kathy, does this have a resolution number?
Or will it need to come back to us again?
I don't think it needs to come back. I think it's more, let's cut the trail, and then let's go for it. It's not rocket science. And then when we get down to the time of actually getting this parcel developed, and we try to work around this because it is an amenity, then we fix the easement.
We need something in writing.
Okay.
Where where the city is granting an easement subject to being moved.
That's fair.
And because that's going to get recorded, they need that, the city needs that. Yeah, I'll read the motion. So I move approval of the request from the Trail Association for a movable easement on the City of Mount Shasta property. The easement would be subject to being relocated depending upon the needs of the city of Mount Shasta or the developer of the property.
Second.
And
Continue.
the easement would be, the existing easement would be generally as shown on, depicted on the schematic.
Right, 100 feet south of Church Street. Is that what you said, or 100 yards?
About.
Yeah, on the east side of Mount Shasta Boulevard. Got it. Okay, second.
Is that a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, continue your thing after second.
We may need to stop for a moment for Kathy trying to comment all those Councilmember Stern's commentary. Okay, good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Gentlemen, again, thank you very much for your efforts. It's a
Thank you for your consideration and approval. Really appreciate it.
indeed. Thanks.
Be in contact with you about any type of agreement?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
As the city manager mentioned earlier, the agenda item number 10, the discussion of possible action of the annexation of Crystal Geyser and the Orchard properties is being put off for a little bit as it will be brought back to us with additional properties. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we will just move to agenda item number 11, the authorization of a temporary dispatcher position. And Chief Gibson, who may have been called away.
He is responding to a fire that appears to be stopped.
Oh. Where was it?
Half acre at the landing. So, basically, I'm going to try to wing this, but with the chief, he came on June 27th for an authorized position. For a one full-time dispatcher that was promoted to police services supervisor. We have a dispatcher that has been out on leave for a while now on disability, and we don't know if that person is coming back. What we're doing is hiring a temporary position that will sunset and subject to renewal depending upon whether this person comes back or whether they decide to leave the city. So it's plugging the hole for the time being.
Council members, any questions for the city manager? Okay. Kathy, is there anybody online who'd like to speak on this agenda item?
Okay, so I'll move to approve, unless there's objection. Move to approve resolution CCR-22-23, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta authorizing a temporary increase in on-call dispatcher positions within the police department by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There were no outside meetings, so we'll move on to future agenda items and meetings. Anybody have anything that they'd like to add or delete?
So, I get a lot of questions about what's going on at the landing regarding the hazardous waste removal. And at this point, do we have enough information for a solid update 2 weeks from now or possibly 4 weeks from now as to?
I can give you a slight update right now, if you'd like.
Okay. Okay.
What has happened is last week, they hauled off all of the hazardous waste that they have to date, as well as some of the, quote, non-hazardous waste. There is only about 400 cubic yards left. The additional testing that they have done has resulted in additional removal that will be necessary in actually two of the sites. where you can see as you drive by where there's open areas there. They did find a couple of hot spots still, and will be exploring expanding the removal and testing of that particular area. But the good news is most of the stuff that they dug up has been hauled off. There was air testing done during the whole time that the off-hauling was done, which was under any threshold where additional things would have needed to be done for air quality control purposes. So we will be meeting again with the EPA folks as well as Geocon, which is our contractor for the two grants that we have for the two brownfield grants that we have for that area. So to be continued.
Do you feel confident that the funding will come forward to complete?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a huge amount of money coming through the brownfield channels. And as I think I had mentioned before, we were even mentioned in some of the educational type webinars that discussed additional funding, that Mount Shasta was actually mentioned in their what's happening in California for brownfield funding. So I'm very confident that if we need additional funding to finish out the landing site to be able to be developed, we will be successful in
sounds like that.
receiving that funding.
Okay. Well, you answered all my questions and concerns. Thank you.
Anybody else have any agenda items?
That's not going to be a future agenda item.
Right, yeah, nope. We all good?
So I've got a few things to add, if you want me
Please.
to add them to the pile. Alta wants to give us an update on their final draft of the active transportation plan. I've been working with Plan West Partners on the housing element update. They want to come and give us an update on that. And we'll be bringing back the resolution on annexation, and may be bringing a proposal for an approval of an RFP to not doing direct negotiations, but understand the ramifications of a tax sharing agreement with the county. So we kind of understand what we're getting into and what we can buy into and what we can't. And this firm also can help us with, if we so choose, and we'd have to go out for a competitive bid, but this is the only company I've found that does this. Also looking at ways to get other ways to get at, other than what we've been studying, to get infrastructure to these sites so we can get them up and developed.
Great. Just a quick question. Will the Alta report delve into the one-way street situation?
I've told them to break it into two parts.
Great.
Well, if that's it, gentlemen and ladies, we adjourn. Thank you.
Super duper gang.